We're good? All right, then the August meeting of the Library Board of Trustees is called to order. Number 2, public appearances and non-agenda items.
Nope.
Nothing. Approval of minutes. May I have a motion to approve the July 2023 draft minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of passing the July minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and you were not here, right? So you
Correct.
should abstain?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Everyone else was here, is that
I was
right?
not.
There's
Oh,
two more.
Also
Yeah.
abstain.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Treasurer's report. So you always like to explain this first before we get a motion, or you want the motion first?
We should do a motion first, but I always forget.
Then I will motion to approve the financial register and financial overview for May. And we do not need a second because we're less than 12.
Yes. All right, so a few things to note on it. On the register first, you'll notice in account 240, we have $1,100 that we paid to Arch O&M for solar diagnostics. So this is, remember back in May, we've talked about this, but we've got some solar inverters that are not working. This was them coming out to confirm that that was the problem with solar. They are, I believe, providing us with 2 new inverters that are under warranty, so there's no cost, but the cost to install them will be, we believe, $4,000. I think that's a piece, although I think there's going to be some savings with doing them both at one time, so probably not 8, but it's going to be expensive. I am holding off on that project until later in the year to know if we've got money left over. The good news is, after Misty was here last month, we talked a little bit about fund balance, using fund balance, how do we have money for things that we don't expect? And she agreed to let us carry forward any funds just in account 240 to stay in account 240. So typically that money has gone into fund balance and then we have to do a whole budget process to spend it, but this will just leave it in 240, so we'll have, that money can build up if we don't need it for unexpected repairs. So if we've got the money left in November, I'd like to schedule the work. If we can't get it done by the end of the year, that's all right, because we can carry it over to the next year. So we are planning on repairing these. I just don't want to do it prematurely. So that's what that charge is. Is there anything else? You'll see in account 355, we bought some blinds. So we're kind of just doing an overall building. What do we need? What's good and bad? It turns out we've got three folks who have desks that look out over the white roof of the portico on the north side, and it gets really bright. And they've all worked here for a very long time. I'm looking at Phil. I never mentioned that it was blinding in there at some times of the day, and that blinds would be really nice to have. So we have purchased some blinds to put up. So it's kind of a 12-year catch-up project, I guess. Yeah, everything else was pretty normal. Any questions?
What is Gojo soap?
Kevin is very detailed in his
360.
notes. It's the liquid soap that we put in the bathrooms. It's just the brand.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? All right.
Anything in the financial overview that you need to go over?
I don't think so.
Okay. Then all in favor of passing the financial register and overview, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Unfinished business. We never have it.
None.
Okay. New business, policy review, access services. We'll start with the circulation policy.
So I think we're going to actually hold for a minute on that and have Phil do his presentation on access services. He's the manager in that department. We'll also be doing a tour after we adjourn today to see the area you've seen. Some of you have seen the sorter because we did that earlier a few meetings ago, but we'll take a look at the rest of the department. So we'll start with the presentation and then we'll go into the policies if that's all right. So I think you need to share your screen. Yeah.
This works. So, awesome. Yeah, so thanks for having me here today. I'm Phil. Good to be here and talk a little bit about the Access Services Department, a little bit about kind of what we do, who we are, and a little bit of the specifics on kind of what we end up doing in the building here.
Phil, I'm not being rude. I can see it on the screen in front of me.
What's that?
I don't want you to
yeah.
think I'm being rude by not
Oh,
turning
no,
around. I can actually see it on this computer.
Good to know. No worries at all.
Yeah, I don't care what he's doing. Whatever.
No, all
Just
good.
wanted to clarify.
Appreciate it, no worries. So access services, what we end up doing in the building, there's kind of two different aspects to it. There's the stuff that's a little bit more visible, a little bit more patron-facing. That ends up being, obviously, customer service is probably the thing we take most seriously in this building as a whole in every department. And most of that for us is done at the circulation desk, because that's the desk right by the main entrance when you come in. I'll drill down a little bit further into kind of some of the specifics of what we do at that desk and some of the stuff that we manage there. But there's also a lot of stuff that actually happens in the back room as well. So we have materials coming in and out every day, literally down to the hour that we run book drops and kind of keep up with our processing in the back room. We also have longer-term projects as well, like stacks maintenance or specific shelving projects that we'll kind of work on. So it ends up being a little bit of both backroom work and front-of-house work. We're a pretty big department. We're about, I think numbers-wise, about half of the building. We're 18 staff members for about 300 hours a week. There's 3 full-time people in the department. There's myself, and then we have 2 full-time library assistant 3s, Jen and Rachel. The 3 of us, everyone who works the service desk works a 3-week rotation, so we try to have one of the 3 of us around as much as possible. So we all work a different weekend. We have our schedule staggered throughout the week, so we're around to kind of weigh in on honestly, on just the weirder questions that pop up that need a little bit more experience and stuff like that. In addition to that, to work on the desk, we also have 4 desk workers who work there as well. We have 3 20-hour-a-week library assistant 1s, and then 1 10-hour-a-week library assistant 1. It's technically classified as an LTE position. She helps out with weekend coverage, so which is great. And then I think the largest classification in the building that we have are library shelvers. So we generally staff 9 to 11 of them at a time, the goal always being 11, but with 11 10-hour-a-week positions, we have to kind of refill them throughout the year because a lot of people who will come and go and stuff like that, which just recently, I think just yesterday, finished hiring 3 new ones, which will be great. I'm going to start at the end of this month. And they work about 10 hours a week, so we have a whole staggered schedule for them as well so that we don't go very long without coverage in the back room to make sure that the sorter's not overflowing or that we're not backing up on the shelving in the back room and stuff like that as well. So the front desk, to go a little bit further into what we do there, like I said before, we're the desk right by the main entrance, so we get a little bit of everything. We get everything from where do I sign up for a library card to which meeting room is the board meeting in tonight to where's the nearest post office box, where's a good place for lunch, kind of everything under the sun that we get, which is great. We sign people up for library cards. We deal with the maintenance of their accounts while they're there. We'll show you during the tour, we have 5 self-check machines in the building here. They do about 80 to 85% of our checkouts, but there's still a lot of stuff that they can't handle. And we still like to offer the option for people who don't prefer those machines to come to the desk and check out. So we do a lot of that there as well. We help people with holds, with finding the ones they've already requested and placing new ones. We have a couple of services that are kind of, honestly, a little bit of a holdover from when we were closed for COVID, but have sort of maintained of phone holds and curbside pickup. So not a ton of use on those, but they seem really valuable for the people who use them. We process lost items and damaged items. We have some items for sale at that desk. We sell tote bags, jump drives, and some inexpensive headphones for use in the building, or I guess anywhere, but so, and then we also handle all the circulating technology at the front desk as well. So we have laptops people can check out in the building. It works really well for people who are doing online exams or potentially like a job interview and they don't want to have to do that in the computer lab. A little bit more privacy that way. We also check out Kindles and Rokus for people to check out and take home as well. So all of that stuff is kind of managed through the service desk.
Phil, how would someone know you have items for sale there? This is the first I'm hearing.
That's a good question. There's a small sign there, but it's not a lot.
Okay.
It comes up most frequently if they'll come in and ask if we have like headphones that they can purchase or borrow, or it'll kind of pop up a little bit more organically that way. But maybe we should work on a new sign. So it's been probably 10 years since we made a new sign. So
Yeah.
good idea. So. We don't do a ton of those sales anymore. We used to take all the money in for the photocopy system as well, but since
Right.
we've changed to those coin towers, that's mostly autopilot now. So we make change for them every now and then, but yeah, so it's good. So To drill down a little bit further onto like what this kind of involves, for 2022, we were about this, I think, the 7th highest circulating library in the South Central system. So we're on the larger side. We're not the biggest for sure, but I think there's 65 libraries in South Central, so we're up there. We did about 306,000 checkouts last year, so it's about 920 items a day that were open. Of those items, 76,000 plus were items that people had specifically requested to come in. So those will either be items that we pull from our own shelves to fill holds, or they come in our red bin deliveries, which I'll show you when we get down on the tour and everything like that too. To the tune of about 232 of those a day that we end up filling. We also have, you've seen the sorter, I think a couple months ago when we did the tour, that thing, and then the items that we have to handle on our own that it can't handle. That's about 230,000 check-ins last year. That number is always a little confusing why there's a difference between the number of items checked out and checked in, but it's because we ship stuff to all other libraries across the system, and the checkout number also includes items that are renewed that may or may not be done at the desk. So we signed up 1,136 new library accounts last year too, which is great. That was a big jump after getting back into summer reading as well. So about 80% were Fitchburg residents, so that's also very good. So we're always busy down there. There's always something to do. To talk a little bit more about the back room, like I was saying, we do materials check-in. The sorter does what it can, but there's a lot of stuff that it can't handle, or a lot of stuff that needs more intervention by us. We get deliveries from the South Central Library System delivery service 5 days a week. Those include holds and then also items that have just been returned at other libraries, because patrons can return at any South Central library, whatever is most convenient for them. And we do some less frequent processing of items in the back there as well. So if we're looking for an item from outside of the system, the adult services staff will take care of the ordering of those items, but we handle the physical check-in and check-out process for that. We deal with damaged items with missing pieces and parts, with reported defects like a DVD that skips or something like that that won't play, and we have our own kind of repair processes that we use for that as well. We'll kind of show you that when we get down into the workroom. I can show you the gross stuff. Then for 2022 with that delivery again, it was about 167,000 items coming in and about 161 going out. So it's another 1,260 items a day that we end up checking in, generally that we end up handling. When we show you the red bins in the back, we get about 40 items per red bin of delivery, so it's about 32 bins a day with delivery 5 days a week that we end up processing. So that's why we have so many people in the department, because these processes are running all the time. They generally are completed on a daily basis, but some of them are ongoing to the point where we might be doing holds from catch up from a day previous if we're short-staffed or something. Shelving is a big deal as well. I mean, I think at one point in time, we thought it was about 1,500 items a day that we end up shelving. It was a ways back. But of all those items that come back, this is why we have 11 shelvers that do this. So we try to split it up so that they're doing some of that every time during their shift, but not just shelving picture books for 4 hours straight so people don't quit. We have our pick list that we pull at least once a day. So those are items that people have requested either for pickup here or at other libraries. And we process them accordingly that way. And then we have some longer term projects like shelf reading, which is getting out into the stacks and making sure things are in the right order. When we started looking at the performance review process for the shelvers, I remember them saying it's something like a 93% accuracy. That's the cutoff point where if your shelves are less than that, if they're less than 93% accurate, people will not be able to find what they're looking for, to the point where they'll either have to come up to the desk or ask for help, or just leave. So we actually go through all of our shelvers as part of their evaluations to make sure that we're hitting those goals as we go through, and shelf reading assists the rest of that, making sure everything's looking nice and in the right order and in the right areas and stuff like that. So, and then we help out the youth services and adult services department with shifting and weeding projects as well. So as their collections grow or change kind of their composition, we'll help make sure everything is kind of evenly spaced and kind of looking nice that way too. But
when we switch out the picture book shelving, circulation got to do all the planning, and it got a lot of help from the other departments. But
absolutely, we did. So
yeah.
That was great. So,
yeah.
That was a really cool project.
It was a big project.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, customer service is obviously the most patron-facing thing that we do, and I really do think it is the most important thing that we do here in the building as well. So, and that's kind of just a quick overview of the Access Services Department. We'll, like Wendy was saying, after we're done with the meeting here, we'll kind of do a little walkthrough, show you around and everything too. But
Really, really impressive. Thank you.
So there's a lot of work that gets done
Yeah.
in circulation. I think people sometimes don't appreciate that. We actually added a question to our interview questions about like, this is a fast-paced department and there's very little downtime and it kind of never ends.
yeah,
So some people really thrive on that and some people don't. And we just kind of want to be upfront. Like books will never stop coming into the book drop. Like you'll get that thing empty and 2 seconds later it's not. So
in
yeah.
the rare event that we don't have things to shelve, there's plenty of other stuff
Yeah.
to do. So,
You can shelf read the whole building.
Exactly, there's plenty to do. So,
Yeah.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Really. We'll go to the circulation policy then for review.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah, this one had a small change. I feel like the last time I was here, I kind of threw a lot of policy changes at everyone here, and this should hopefully be a little bit easier to handle. The circ policy is, I think, the biggest one that I have, but we only had one small change to it. This policy, obviously, it covers the general procedures and policies we have for who's eligible for a library card, the limits that might come into place for borrowing, how the hold system works. It also includes some of the guidelines that we end up using, some of the policies we have for damaged items. So on, I believe, page 5 of the circulation policy, we added a short line that just said repair of damaged library items by patrons is not allowed. We've had some instances of people either attempting their own repairs and then potentially ruining the item, or sort of insisting on doing their own repairs, even though it's a pretty advanced thing to do. So in general, we try to repair stuff and not charge people as much as possible. So we're pretty lenient with stuff like that. So, but we have,
Scotch tape is not the answer, ever.
So that was my thought when I read that.
Yeah.
That if somebody rips a page at home, they're going to Scotch tape that.
They do sometimes. They do sometimes.
and they do.
Yeah, I'm sure they
We
would.
would rather they not.
And they're not going to read this document,
No, probably not. So
so it doesn't
So-
help you, really, right?
it came,
Unless they damage it, and then you could say, hey, it was in our policy, is that kind of?
kind of, yeah. And we had a recent instance too where a patron disagreed with how easy it was to repair something and just insisted, "Well, just give it to me and I'll fix it then."
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, that's not really what we allow. And we found that there was kind of a hole in the policy
For
for
this.
that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's probably not something that's going to come up too often, but
Yeah.
we felt like kind of closing that loophole of,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah.
Any questions, things Phil can clarify on that one? Not, may I have a motion to approve the new modified circulation policy?
So moved.
Thank you, Anne. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, on to the next. Phil?
Yeah, the next one that I've got is the community bulletin board policy. So this is a real short policy that just kind of covers the differences or what we post and who's eligible to post on our community bulletin boards. Didn't have any proposed changes to it. It's maybe even 5 or 6 years ago now, it underwent a pretty significant updating process, and we haven't really needed to change since then. It seems to be working pretty well. So we try to prioritize basically free programs and educational programs because we're looking for the, we don't want it to, what we're trying to avoid is it turning into like a for sale board. There are alternatives for that over at the senior center and city hall and stuff like that as well. So for this, we're really just looking to promote information.
This is the board when you first walk into the main doors on the left.
That is the library program bulletin board. So this is the one that's at the other door on Lacey.
Right.
So that is community programs, not library programs.
Okay. Any questions for him?
The door on Lacey. Like, say more words about where that is. When you walk in, it's the,
That side of the building. If you walk in through the doors by the circ desk, it's all the way over to your left.
So it's closer to the youth?
Yeah,
area?
right by
okay,
the
so you're
youth
coming by the
yeah.
teen, between the
Yeah.
teens and the kids.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've
The
got a
door that you
bulletin
don't
board.
use.
Exactly. So, I mean, most people,
It's
yeah.
the door that you should use to go see the pollinator gardens.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
there's a patio out there.
Or to get ice cream at the chocolate shop.
Yeah.
that happens
There
too.
you go. May I have a motion to approve the community bulletin board policy?
I move approval.
Thank you, Jim. May I have vote on it then? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we've got the laptop checkout policy.
This is another relatively short policy that we didn't have any changes to. This is, generally, we just have a little bit of an extra policy with this because the replacement price for the laptops is higher than most of the materials we have in the collection, so we wanted to make sure people were a little bit more aware of that. Basically, it just covers who's able to check laptops out, that the way we register library accounts here is that anyone 16 or older can sign up for their own library card, so we have them able to borrow the laptops as well at that point. We have 4 of them, and we just sort of cover the fact that we can't hold them for people in advance and go through some of the specifics about that it can't be brought off property, you can't install your own software, which good luck if you wanted to anyway, but and just basically that it's just a little bit of a bridge sort of between our circulation policy, our computer and internet use policy to sort of bridge that gap as people are borrowing things. These are in building use only, so, and they're still pretty popular. They still go out pretty regularly, so they've been helpful.
Can Phil answer any questions?
Yes. There was one line that I thought, why is it in there? And
Oh.
that's patrons should use a flash drive to save their work. How about cloud or, I mean, there's so many other ways to save work that I was wondering why we
You know, that's a good question.
specifically say a flash
I
drive.
think, that's a good question. We could absolutely just amend that to say something like use a flash drive or save
Or
Sure.
an external.
external storage of
External
some kind.
storage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had it in there because we've had some people who will come back after they've dropped the laptop off, and when we reboot it, it wipes everything.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where we want people to be aware that if they need to be saving their own stuff at risk of losing it otherwise. But yeah, that seems like a great idea.
let's add-
That's something that, yeah. So,
Anything else?
Location.
I guess related to that, how about something like the library is not responsible for misappropriation of any personal identifiable information saved on the laptops
Sure.
or accessed via, I guess, so you have
Sure.
that reboot process, but in the event that it fails or something, someone
Sure,
checks
sure.
one out, run after the other
Would that
person.
be covered under the internet use policy?
it might be, but if it's, but I'll find out, because it is a good idea to have that in here too, because you're right.
It might be just a line that we can copy over, so it
Yeah,
would be
exactly.
consistent in both places.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have to use the internet in order for someone else to get the
Right.
data.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea too. Yeah, we can, if there's a line to kind of copy from this computer and internet use policy, which I can take a look at here, then we can move that over. Or if there's not, we could absolutely just add in a second line to address of, that patrons kind of assume their own liability when they're using these for their own privacy.
Yeah.
So great idea.
Yeah.
Or that you're not responsible for lost files or something
Yeah,
like that.
that's a good
Because I
idea.
could imagine someone saying, well, it's your fault, you did it. and
Right,
that
so-
was- You know, it's always
Right.
someone else's fault.
No, that's a great idea. So yeah, I can add in both of those options, the option about expanding out the storage options and clarifying a little bit that it's really just to make sure patrons know the stuff is erased when they reboot it, but then also specifically mentioning their responsibility for lost files and that they're kind of taking their own, that their privacy is something they're going to have to monitor themselves while they're
Yeah,
using them.
limited liability, I think.
Yeah, limited li, that's a good idea. So,
So do we have to table this as unfinished business, or no, we can vote on it with modifications
I
that we
think with
discussed?
modifications suggested.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all in favor of passing the laptop checkout policy with the modifications discussed, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the privacy of library records and library use.
So earlier I said that I didn't make a lot of big changes to something, and I kind of lied. So we were going through the privacy policy that we had, and it was pretty, it hadn't been kind of substantially changed since the library had opened. And it was a boilerplate policy, I think, published by DPI for public libraries to use, which was very effective, but really had, it was very long. It was 4 or 5 pages long, and it had a lot of procedural information as opposed to policy information. It was a lot of, if someone comes in and requests this, then this staff member will do this and that, and things that are important but don't necessarily belong in the policy end of it. So we opted to rewrite it a little bit, and also at least partially in line with some of the code of conduct stuff that we had talked about in June, as well as just making sure we're kind of aware of what we track, what people need to get access to things in their account. So the rewrite process that we went through, we really tried to summarize kind of the overall intent of the policy. We went through specifically what is covered within it. We wanted to add a specific line about our surveillance system that we have here in the building. And to be honest, a lot of the limits of it. So because we do have one in here, but we do feel like people at least needs to be posted somewhere that they are on camera when they come into the building. We go into a little bit of stuff that ends up being, this is something we end up dealing with at the circulation desk a lot, of access to people's accounts over the phone or over email in ways that we can't verify an ID. So some of the specific things that we can give out over the phone, like items they have checked out, the due dates on those items, but that we can't give out, like what the street address is on someone's library card over the phone or something like that. So trying to go through those specifics. I think, generally kept the numbered list 1 through 5 of people who can have account information given over to them. So basically, it's library staff as part of their jobs, any authorized individuals, parents, law enforcement officers, or obviously anyone with a subpoena or a court order that would be looking in for that. And we end the policy just with a direct listing of Wisconsin Statute 4330 for public library records to kind of talk specifically about why we address this in certain ways. This is I think we got it down to basically about a page, from like 4 to try to really compress it into the broad strokes of what we have and not getting bogged down too much in like specific like procedural stuff that the CERC department might do or the rest of
We're taking that information and putting it in a different place for
exactly.
staff.
Questions? Clarifications?
Under the disclosure information, the list, point 2, persons authorized by the cardholder. How do you authorize someone?
That is a great question, because I really struggled with whether we should keep that in there or not. The instances that I've found of it usually involve honestly, a conversation with me directly with the patron. The instances we've had are parents of adult children that they might have like a legal custodianship over. And I think that's most of what we've had there. Most of what we end up with those requests, it's usually covered in the custodial parents and legal guardians. But that would be something that they would either have to produce probably like a power of attorney. Or,
Right. So
This is
if
just like, I called in and said, hey, this person can come look up my stuff for me. or-
Yeah.
Exactly.
it's got to be much more
So,
formal.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is, I want to say mostly adults that have someone that has power of attorney
Okay.
for their affairs.
Right.
Yeah.
because generally speaking, with the law, when people hit 16, we're not allowed to give
Right.
out borrowing or account information even to their parents without the cardholder's permission. That's in the statute that we have. So
Yeah.
this addresses that. So that when we have people who are an adult with a
Yep.
conservator or
Yeah.
something like that over, that we're working with
It
them.
does not happen often.
I don't know if we've ever done it. So I think we have patrons who come here who have set it up at other libraries.
Yes.
And they have it documented on their library cards.
Yes.
So, but it is good to have though. So.
Yep.
For this one and the next one, where you include the statute in your policy, does it make sense to replicate it like that? I don't know how often these statutes might change. Or just rather to incorporate it by reference and say like, for additional details, see
Sure.
Wisconsin statutes.
That's a
chapter
good question.
43.
I figured,
They don't get updated often, so I think it's safe to put them in here.
and it's definitely something that I do on the annual review that we go through
Yeah.
it. And we actually did the underlined section for Wisconsin Statute 4330 as a live link
Yeah.
to the statute as well.
Okay.
So,
Without further ado, unless there's any more questions, may we have a motion to approve the privacy of library records and library use? Okay, I'll do it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We move on to, scroll down, theft of library materials policy.
This is well, I guess there's one sentence that isn't taken straight from the Wisconsin statutes in here, but basically we just lay out exactly what the state of Wisconsin counts as theft of library material. Now that I say that out loud, if it's acceptable, I would like to add a direct link on the statute line to
Yep.
the actual
Yep.
to the actual the statute listing online, so I can
Yeah.
add that in. But otherwise, this is something that we check on an annual basis to make sure it's still up to date. And like Wendy said, these ones at least don't change too often. So, but we do check it every year, so.
It just seems kind of redundant to have a policy where all the policy says is we follow the law. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, doesn't hurt anything,
no.
I don't object to it, but
I think a lot of it might be from an instance where you were addressing it in person with
Yes.
someone about saying like, well, rather than having to go and pull up and print off the state statutes, I just have it listed
Yeah.
here, because we have these in a binder at our desks and stuff like that, so we can kind of
Imagine-
have it that way,
imagine-
so.
This is happening in the library and you have to address it in the moment. It's much
Right.
easier to have our own policy.
You have it, it's a good point, though. It is a little redundant, but I think we have it that way for a reason, so that it's a little bit more of for staff who might have to be enforcing this kind of on the spot if they're here at 7:30 on a
Right.
Wednesday night, they have it
Do
kind of
you-
printed off there, so.
would it make sense to add something like, we refer all suspected cases of theft of library materials to the Fitchburg City Police, or?
Yeah.
Isn't that,
I wouldn't say all, though. I mean,
Yeah.
there's sometimes we have to have some discretion. And when you say all,
Yeah.
I don't think
yeah, a
that you.
4-year-old walks out with a book, we're not calling the police. So all is all in a legal document.
It's true.
Yeah.
I just don't know what your policy is then, other than following the law.
Well, and that's a good question.
How do you decide what to refer? Or what, if you suspect something, is it okay to ask someone to look in their bag? Or, if you're a staff person,
Well,
other
so-
than
so
what the
point
law
four,
says, how
though.
do you know what to do?
Point 4 addresses that, so we can detain the person in a reasonable manner for a reasonable length of time to deliver the person to a peace officer, like it is included in here.
So then it's just up to the person if each staff person decides what's reasonable? Do
They would
have to
work
ask
together.
them?
We've always got someone that's in charge of the building. I mean, you have to make, yes, people have to make judgment calls in their jobs.
Not trying to be argumentative, just suggesting that some of that policy might be more helpful to be in the policy if we're looking to flesh out more of a policy, but it's fine with me too.
How big of a problem is this?
Not a big problem.
Not a big problem?
No.
I had another question too then. In the circulation policy, we state that anyone who removes something from the hold shelf will be treated as theft of library materials. Do we need to say that in the theft of library materials policy, like refer back, close that loop?
Good question. Let me see.
I mean, it seems so procedural, but if we say it in one policy, should we say it in the other?
And I think, that's a good question, because we have that line in the circ policy. That's a good question. In the theft of library materials policy, point 2 talks about intentionally taking items away from the library. Basically, that constitutes theft. And I guess we were trying to draw, like you were kind of saying, we were trying to draw the comparison between pulling items from the hold shelf and intentionally not following through on the checkout process. But we've had people come in and be like, oh, my card is blocked, I'll just take these anyway. And like that, you might feel like because it has a hold slip with their name on it, that it's okay for them to do that. But that's what we were trying to clarify, but it's a good point. It is a
I
little
feel like the
light.
theft policy
So-
gives more teeth to the circulation policy, but not vice versa. So I feel like it is in the order that it should be in.
One's intent. So, I mean, when I'm reading the whole policy, like Phil was saying, hey, they got my name and everything else anyway, so I'll just
Right.
walk out.
Yeah.
The other one is you're trying to conceal and deprive the library
Right.
of its
Yeah.
resource.
I get that. It was more of, if one policy is referencing the other, should we close the loop?
Close it.
That was it.
Okay.
But just a
Or where in
question.
the theft policy does it say it's okay to treat taking a hold as theft? It's taking the hold and then removing it from the library, not just taking it off the shelf and like putting
Right.
it somewhere else, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. I'm confused as to where we are on this. Are we modifying anything? Are we just keeping it as
I
is?
think we're good the way we are.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
I'm comfortable with it, with the way it is and having to enforce it.
Okay. Then, all in
How
favor?
does the staff feel about it?
I think staff are comfortable with it.
I think the big stuff I think the very few instances we've had to use it are well covered by it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Okay, with that, all in favor of passing the theft of library materials policy, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. Passes.
Excellent. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. President's report, that's me. Just want to make sure that everybody received the email about the evaluation for Wendy, and that September 20th, if I remember right, is the date that we will go into closed session.
Correct.
So if you could clear your calendars so that we make sure we have a quorum that day, that would be great. And if you're not going to be around, letting us know early so that we can make adjustments. Are there any questions about that email that I sent out to all of you? Okay, then moving on, library director report.
All right, I've got quite a few things, but they're all pretty short. Just wanted to report on the budget. We're not looking at it tonight. There have been a few changes, nothing major. We still don't have final numbers for insurance. It is currently balancing with like $2,000 left over, so that's good. In the spirit of that carryover of account 240, I, and some other conversations with Misty, decided to use fund balance money for furniture purchases for next year. So that gave us a little bit more wiggle room. So things are looking pretty good right now. I will keep you posted as that moves along. We had meetings this week with Misty and Chad Brecklin, the city administrator, and then those two and the mayor the next day. And they didn't have a whole lot of questions for us. So things are looking good there. Overdrive Advantage. So we have just in the last 2 years, libraries have been given the ability to, so we Libby, Overdrive, we buy that as a state. So we put our system puts in, we give money to the system puts it in on our behalf for the state. We also have an Advantage account, which just is for South Central residents. So we put extra money into that so that it brings down the hold list just for South Central. We've just gotten the ability in the last couple of years to do that just for Fitchburg residents. And we had kind of been waiting to see how it was going to work out with other libraries doing it first. But we're going to go ahead and move forward with our own Advantage account. It should bring down hold times for Fitchburg residents, and then if there are no holds for Fitchburg residents, it'll go to other system holds. We are pulling money back on book on CDs. So the circulation has dropped really dramatically with that. I think with cars not having CD players anymore, there's just not a lot of that going on anymore. So, and I think with the pandemic, people learned how to do it other ways. So those also, they're expensive and they take up a lot of space and they get damaged pretty easily. So you'll see downstairs, we got a whole machine that we have to use to resurface discs. So I think going digital is probably the way to go. So we are just starting with a $5,000 investment. The tricky thing about buying ebooks is that the pricing model or the sales model is real wonky. So, you buy a book on CD, you've got it for however long it lasts. If people lose a disc, if it gets damaged, if it gets lost, you lose it. With digital copies, digital rights management is what they call it, and everybody's all mad about it in the whole library world. You buy, every publisher sets their own rules. So you could buy a copy and it could fill 100 holds and then it disappears. That might be 100 people at the same time. It might be 100 people in sequential order. It could be 52 checkouts. It could be you can have it for 12 months and then it disappears. So we're going to have to learn a whole lot about how to do this. We have not been doing the purchasing for Overdrive Advantage for the system. This is kind of new to us. So we're going to be learning a little bit about how this is going to work. But we're hoping that patrons will see a difference with hold times because they are significant for books. And this will be for ebooks and e-audiobooks. So we'll be moving forward with that. I will report back, hopefully good news, after we get going. There was the city contracted with a company called Baker Tilly to do a staffing study. So they met with every single department in the city to talk about org charts, strategic plans, what your workflow is, where you have bottlenecks, do you have enough staff, do you not have enough staff? And they came back with a whole report that I believe is linked to the city's site on recommendations for who needs more staff, who needs to move staff around, like should staff be in different departments. That came out a couple of weeks ago. The library did not have any recommendations, which I believe is because we're only 10 years old and we were built for a city the size of 25,000. So I think we're the appropriate size. We staffed the building appropriately. We have added some staff over the years, not a lot, but some. I think the departments that they're recommending additional staff be added is think of the village of Fitchburg. Like we were very small and we grew and they kind of haphazardly added people, but maybe not in the right place. And maybe they haven't done it enough. So I think there's going to be some big changes at the city. I think we will see the consequences of that will be our administrative fee will go up, I think, dramatically over the next couple of years as staff are added. We pay as Misty explained, the finance or the administrative fee for finance for HR. They recommended 2 new full-time people in each of those departments. And then some kind of reorganizing of other places. So not going to affect us in the short term, but it will affect us in the long term. So just wanted to put that out there. We're going to look at the sorter room project. I mentioned this before we started, but we have painted the room. We are getting ready for new flooring. And we do not have a date for the new sorter yet. They are still building it in Denmark, but things are going well there. I wrote down that the elevator was broken, but it got fixed today. The big elevator, the 2-sided elevator, stopped working on Sunday. We came in Monday and it wasn't doing anything. So Coney came out and I saw a guy working on the top of it with a manual in his hand, and I thought that's not good. So it got fixed today. It was apparently the main computer, like the PC board, which is big. We have a service contract on that, so I think that it's going to be free, but I don't know that for sure. I will keep an eye out. But it's working again. Everybody's very happy about it.
Do we have a deductible on that?
No. This is a repair, I believe, that they made. So when we first opened, had a lot of problems with that elevator. It trapped Kevin twice. Once it dropped to the basement and he was thrown to the floor and it was terrible and the fire department came to let them out, but then we got it open. And I used to refer to it as the Ford Pinto of elevators because we just had problems all the time. And then they finally admitted that it was a problem and they replaced this board. And we have not had a single problem since. This time, we had a staff picnic on Sunday and Phil was in the building to pick up food. And it worked when he was here the first time and it didn't the second time. So we were very lucky that Phil was not trapped in the elevator overnight on Sunday night.
I had a lot of food and water with me.
It's so boring. So I guess I'm just real thankful that it was an easier fail this time, but yeah. And that they fixed it like right off the bat. So, and then Phil stole my thunder about, I'm already going through committee reports. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
We have 3 new shelvers starting, so that's great. We have someone that's been back for the summer that is going off to college, and he is very productive, so we're happy to have some people coming in to Phil as he heads out.
How long does it take to train someone to shelve?
Usually it's like a 2 to 3 week process for the basics, kind of. So we have them start with the pick list that we were talking about, those items that we pull, because it kind of teaches them all through all the collections in the building, the way we use call numbers and general layout. Then we have them start shelving, and then we have them empty the sorter, because that's the more like they're doing condition checks and making sure that they have to know how things are supposed to be sorted first. And that usually wraps up of the basics of the sorter about 2 or 3 weeks after they start. So
What's the average amount of time that they stay?
that's a good question. It's been a while since I checked it. I believe it was about 12 months, something in that ballpark.
I feel like we've had some that stayed for 5 years. We've had some that stayed for 2 shifts. It's a much more physical job than people think it is.
It is.
Sometimes when council asks about the turnover, I'm always like, come over, or to all of you, like, we'll set you up with the cart if you'd like to shelve it. See what it's like. It is much more physical. So, yeah, so sometimes we have people that are like, wow, I just didn't think it was going to be that much.
And we've had people stay for 5-6 years
Yeah.
as shelvers
Yeah.
as well. So, and even be promoted into other positions from there.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
So are we done with strategic?
We are
planning,
done.
Facilities and personnel?
We are.
Then the next board meeting is September 20th at 5:30. And will someone please make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Anne. All in favor of adjourning at, what's the time? 6:15, 6:16? Say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, everyone, for coming. We are adjourned.